Hey, welcome! Today we're jumping into a really fascinating topic, the Buddhist perspective on a creator God. And let me tell you, it's a question that takes us right to the heart of how this tradition sees reality, the mind, the whole shebang. So, let's kick things off with the big one, right? If you trace everything back, way back, does Buddhism point to a single creator, some kind of primal mover? We're going to explore its really unique take on where everything comes from. All right, so the short answer is a pretty clear no. But you're going to want to stick with me, because the long answer, well, that reveals a cosmology that's way more interesting than a simple yes or no could ever be.
At its core, you'll often hear Buddhist thought described as non-theistic. Now, that doesn't mean atheistic, not necessarily. It just means that the existence of a supreme creator isn't really the central question. The path to liberation, the real focus, is placed somewhere else entirely.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. The Buddhist universe is anything but empty. It is packed with beings called devas, which we often translate as gods. But, and this is absolutely the key, they are fundamentally different from the kind of creator god you might find in monotheistic traditions.
And this chart just lays out the difference so perfectly. You know, a creator god is usually seen as this uncaused, eternal, all-powerful being that exists outside of creation. Devas, on the other hand, well, they're super powerful and they live for an incredibly long time, but they're still mortal. They're born, they die, and they're totally subject to karma. They're trapped in the exact same cycle of rebirth, what's called samsara, as you and me. Think of them as powerful residents of the cosmos, not its architects. So, that raises a brilliant question, doesn't it? If there's no creator in this worldview, why is the belief in one so incredibly common all over the world? Well, the Buddha didn't just dismiss the idea. He actually offered this deep psychological explanation for how that belief comes to be in the first place. To do this, he identified 62, that's right, 62 distinct ways that people form their fundamental beliefs about reality. You can think of them as like 62 different blueprints for how to build a worldview, and yep, belief in a creator is one of them. He laid all of this out in this really famous teaching called the Brahmajāla Sutta, and the name is just perfect. It means the perfect net. The whole idea is that it's this metaphorical net designed to catch every single possible speculative view out there. And here's what's so important to get about this. The sutta doesn't treat these views as sins or heresies that you need to be punished for. Not at all. It sees them as these subtle psychological traps, these cognitive dead ends that come from misinterpreting our own experiences. And ultimately, they're what lead to clinging, to conflict, and to suffering.
And get this. This is a truly mind-bending insight from the text. Of all 62 of these views, the vast majority, we're talking almost 80%, don't come from just logical reasoning or idle speculation. They actually come about when people have incredibly profound meditative or spiritual experiences, but then they misinterpret what just happened to them.
So how does all this lead to the idea of a creator? Well, the sutta doesn't just give you some dry philosophical argument. No. It tells this incredible cosmic story to explain the psychology behind it all.
This story revolves around a powerful being named Brahma, and it shows how this kind of mistake can happen on a truly cosmic scale.
Okay, so picture this. A brand new universe is starting to expand, and a single being is the very first one to be reborn into this vast, empty heaven, all alone. After what feels like an eternity of solitude, this being gets bored, gets lonely, and this powerful thought, this wish, forms in his mind. Oh, if only some other beings would show up here. And at that exact moment, just as he has that thought, other beings whose time in other realms has just run out are reborn into his world. Purely by coincidence, his wish and their arrival happen at the same time. So, seeing this, he makes that classic mistake of confusing correlation with causation. He thinks, wow, I am Brahma, the great creator. I wished for them, and here they are. I made them. And the newcomers? Well, they don't remember their past lives. All they know is he was here first. So they look at him and think, he must be our creator. And boom, right there, in that shared misunderstanding, a powerful religious belief is born. Okay, so if the universe doesn't have a single starting point with a creator, then what's the alternative? The model that Buddhism proposes is just as grand, but it's radically different. It's this profound idea called dependent origination. Instead of a straight line starting from a single point of creation, reality is seen as this infinite, interconnected web. Everything that exists, every single thing, arises in dependence on other things. It's a process with no clear beginning and no ultimate end.
So what's the engine driving this whole beginningless cycle of samsara? It's not some divine plan. It's not a cosmic accident. The Buddha pointed to two fundamental psychological forces: ignorance, specifically not seeing this true interconnected nature of reality, and the craving and clinging that bubbles up from that ignorance.
Okay, so what's the big takeaway here? Why does any of this matter? Why spend so much time taking apart these big metaphysical ideas? Because believe me, it is not just an intellectual exercise.
You see, the whole point for the Buddha wasn't to win some philosophical debate about where the universe came from. It was entirely practical. By showing us how our own minds build these grand views, these conceptual prisons, he was pointing a way towards liberation. The way out of suffering isn't found by just believing in the right origin story. It's found by understanding the mechanism of belief itself and seeing for ourselves how we create our own reality moment by moment by moment. And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. This whole perspective shifts the spiritual quest entirely. It's no longer a search for an external creator or some final answer out there. It becomes an internal investigation into the creative power of our own minds. What if freedom isn't about finding the architect of the universe, but about becoming the architect of our own liberation?